Hello, everyone. Anything to anybody?
Hello.
We were just talking about the fact that we were the last man standing. That's what made us great, and the fact that we had natural
Oh
barriers
yeah.
to help us, namely the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say is before I came down here, I was reading the journals of Lewis and Clark, the journals that they kept on their adventure
Yeah,
across the country.
yeah.
And what they talk, it's amazing how little about how our history is misunderstood.
I believe it.
Back then, we had all the major players on the continent. We had England, we had France, we had Spain, right? We
Absolutely.
even had the Russians
Good point.
occupying San Francisco.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
San Francisco was founded by like the Russians. They had a big. That's where they had their fishing fleet. Yeah, yeah. They were there long before us.
The, and I guess long before Mexico too. I mean, because California was one of the nine Mexican
Yeah,
territories.
but the Spanish really didn't get that far up, man. They had that territory, but they were strongest down in the southern part, not up in the northern part.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
obviously San Francisco, right? It's a Spanish word.
But
So.
but 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 what you're saying makes sense because you got the what is it up there? The Bering Strait or whatever, this Bering Sea, what's it called? Between Alaska and
Yeah,
the
and
most
all the and San Francisco waters are frigid because all that water comes down from the Arctic Circle.
100%. Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
The Russian boats way back then just followed the streams, right? And it took them
Well,
right into
well,
San Francisco.
well, to your point, just like 2 weeks ago, a U.S. Coast Guard vessel spotted a Russian and Chinese convoy
Mhm.
out in those waters like a week ago.
Up off of Kiska. Yeah, up in
Yeah,
the
yep.
yeah, up off the islands, up
Yeah,
off
I
of
don't know if they
Alaska.
were running maneuvers or doing a patrol, but they were in, I guess, I don't know if technically they were in US waters,
No, no.
but uh but they were in that area, suffice to say. I mean, that's their way of saying probably, look, if you're going to do the South China Sea stuff, maybe we'll do this. That's just my interpretation, but I don't know.
Well, a
Yeah,
military, I mean, let's face it. I mean, why does a military have men standing guard, right? You're not expecting anything to happen, but they're there just in case. And
absolutely.
and it's the same reason why you send your ships and your planes and your subs out to probe, because you never know what information you're going to find. And let's face it, nobody wants to go to war, but if you're going to go to war, you better have better information about your enemy than they have on you. Like Sun Tzu says, if you don't know your enemy and don't know yourself, you lose every battle.
Yeah, 100%. So to me, it's twofold. To your point, collecting information, number one. And then number two, if something does happen, at least you've got a certain amount of assets already deployed and already localized, if you will, to deliver some sort of either a counterpunch or an initial strike versus, oh boy, we got to send them across the whole globe right now. Oh, that's going to take a month. You know what I mean? So to me, it's twofold, right? And especially with what's going on now, I'm not one iota surprised that they're out in that area. And that's their way of uh, doing, like you said, gathering information. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to be seen on purpose. I'll tell you right now, just to say, hey guys, we're in your backyard, okay? We've got similar capabilities like you do. If you want to start playing this
Dan,
game,
Dan,
here,
you've played sports, okay? And when you train, you're doing your due diligence. You have to go through the motions. You can't just show up game day and be like, okay, I'm going to go score 32 points. No, you have to basically put in your exercises. So,
100%.
in any sport, you worry about yourself more than you worry about your opponent. You worry about perfecting your art. Is our government is very good at projecting. Like for example, Hillary Clinton is like uh, Donald Trump's a Russian agent, right? When she might be the Russian agent. You know what I'm saying? Is
That's a good point.
they
Yeah.
tend to project like they're guilty, and so they tend to take their guilt and they project it on others. And you know who was excellent at doing that was Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin, what he
Yep.
would do is
Hmm.
Joseph Stalin would find out something about you, and he would say, Dan is this, Dan's a closet homosexual, or whatever. Yeah, he'd tear you apart. He'd
Sorry.
tear you apart. And then once he had you gone, he would adopt the policies of yours that he liked, and he would take credit for them being his ideas. And it's kind of like that's what, our country right now is like we tend to project onto our enemies the things that we're doing. Like the United States is probably, I heard somebody say this the other day, and it's a shocking term. I want to hear it's a shocking term, but I don't think you can argue this. I think that he's right. I think when he said that the United States is a terrorist state now, I think you could make a very strong case that the United States government is they call Iran and they call North Korea terrorist states. I think the United States government is a terrorist state. They attack unilaterally. They attack whoever they want. They don't have to go to the UN and get approval. I mean, Russia is basically defending itself on their own border. You could make that argument.
Well,
Versus the United States going to Iraq and Libya and Somalia and
I mean, look,
Afghanistan.
I mean, look, the way I see it is we're using NATO. NATO, first of all, should have been disbanded 30 years ago. It doesn't have function anymore after the Soviet Union fell that I'm aware of. Right. So I don't know what their charter is.
Well, that was the point of NATO.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that was their charter. So since the Soviet Union fell, and most people don't know this, it's like, well, what's their charter now? They are, in my opinion, a proxy. They're being used as a proxy by the West and the US in general. And again, I'm not sticking up for Putin. I'm not a Putin fan, but put yourself in his shoes, guys.
Why are you referencing NATO?
NATO?
Ukraine's not a NATO country.
I understand that, but what we're doing is like we're backing Ukraine, number one, and then we're kind of doing it through a proxy with or talking about the NATO forces and stuff. And in my opinion, we're just using that as a crutch and an excuse to move our systems, if you will, right up on Russia's border. And Putin's like, I can't allow this. That would be like going back to the Cuba days, when we freaked out and the Russians were in Cuba, or if they were loading their SSMs or whatever.
Well, this is what's never
on our Canadian or Mexican borders.
Well, we would have why did Russia put those missiles in Cuba?
You tell me why.
Because the United States had put their missiles in Turkey.
Yeah, there you go.
This is what's never talked about.
Yeah.
So the Russians are like, okay, let's see how the United States likes seeing missiles in Cuba.
That's what I'm saying. So then it turns into a game of chicken.
I'll bet you most Americans don't realize that part of the deal that Kennedy made is Kennedy finally said to Khrushchev, saying, we'll take the missiles out of Turkey, okay? Take yours out of Cuba.
Take them out of Turkey and we'll, exactly. No, that part I do remember 100%. And he navigated it pretty swiftly, I might say. He didn't, it wasn't an all for nothing win or whatever. It was like, look, you give me something, I'll give you something. Let's be sane here at the end of the day. Let's take these missiles off each other's borders. So if you're Putin, he can't allow the West to roll up with our systems, weapon systems on his border. Again, I'm not sticking up for him, but basic empathy. Put yourself in his shoes.
Well, if the Chinese took over Mexico City, took over the government indirectly, they just overthrew them. Next week, there's a coup, and the generals are supported by the Chinese, and the Chinese bring in their weapons and put them inside Mexico and point them at the U.S. Yeah. Are you telling me that the United States wouldn't take action?
Of course, they'd have a shit fit. They would have an absolute shit fit.
Not only that, they'd probably do something militarily.
Well, I would.
You think Chinese missiles up in northern Mexico isn't going to get a military response?
So what I would say is, number one, it would cause a shit fit. Number two, the response, I don't think it would be as a direct response as you think it would be. I think we absolutely would do something. We would use probably special ops to take those systems out. I don't think, though, we would engage directly
Special
with,
ops against Chinese forces, not
uh,
Mexican forces, Chinese forces.
well, okay, so what's your alternative? To go at them conventionally and now start an outright whole fucking war, especially with them right on your border, where they can reach any point in your country like this at this point? Is that what you want? I mean, that you got to think 2 or 3 steps ahead what their response is going to be if you start, right? Especially when they're at your doorstep. I'm just saying, right? You got the bad guy right outside the door. Okay, so before you rip that door open and engage him with the frontal assault like John Wayne, you better think twice, because you just may let him into your living room, if you know what I mean. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So it would be a tough situation, to your point. Totally tough. And we would absolutely throw a conniption, 100%. Something would be done. I don't know exactly what would be done. I'm not sure how I would handle it, but I would probably handle it in or try to in less conventional ways to try to soften the blow, especially that close, if you know what I'm saying.
No,
Right.
I just think the unfortunate side of our media is that they do not ask the difficult questions and they do not try to educate or inform the population. A news story should not be saying the evil Russians attacked. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah, I agree.
news. That's an editorial.
Well, so here's the problem is the last 20 or 30 years, right? Like when you and I grew up, and people need to know this for the younger people watching now, let's say 40 or younger, like millennials and Gen Zs, they didn't grow up with 3 TV stations like Dave and I did because we're ancient, number one. They didn't grow up with just CBS, ABC, and NBC. And where am I going with this? Where there wasn't news 24/7, 365 back in the day, right? So now that that news exists in this manner that I've just described, they've got to fill the airways, and you know this, Dave. So they got to sensationalize it now, and they got to fill it faster and with more quantity. And what does that do? That, in my opinion, affects quality. They don't have time to check stories. They don't have time to check sources. Just
Yeah.
throw it out there. Just
They're
fling
just
it out.
source. Well, they're not news. They're just all they are is teleprompter readers. They get the news.
100%.
They get the news from the CIA saying, "Read this," and they read it. That's why you can see video piled of various news stations around the country where they're reading the same exact news story. And
Yeah,
it'll go from news station
probably.
in Indianapolis to Cincinnati to Cleveland to New York to LA, and they're all saying the
Well,
same exact words.
I think in this day and age with technology, it's entirely possible. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Absolutely, to paint a certain picture and agenda, and to coach your populace with certain messages that you want them to absorb, if you know what I mean.
Well, a totally free country allows free speech, but we know in social media platforms and even in the media, you get deplatformed and shut down if you talk about things that they don't want you to talk about.
Absolutely, we
I
see
mean,
it every day.
there's no dispute on that.
I mean, dude, if they can throw Trump off Twitter, what can they do to the average bear?
Absolutely.
End of story. Right? I mean, somebody like him, as big as him, he's a friggin' multi-billionaire. He's done everything he can in business. He's only been a president of the US, and they can throw his ass off Twitter. I mean, what are they going to do to Joe Smith?
Is the people in this country don't think it can ever happen in their borders.
100%.
But if you look at what the Germans went through, the Russians, the Chinese, all these countries that
Yeah.
were locked down under tyrannical governments,
Mm-hmm.
it's coming here. It is 100% coming to the United States.
I think it's entirely possible. Yeah.
It's like 1984. Either we're going to end up fighting a war and somebody's going to lose, and somebody's going to win, or it's going to break into a multipolar world where you now have this guy considers themselves the good guy, and it's truly like what 1984 is, where it breaks into like a three-tier world.
And I'll even take it a step further. So not only various actors popping up around the world, forming various trading partnerships and groups that you're seeing proliferate. The BRICS is a perfect example since 2014. You'll probably see more actors like that around the world as well. I'd even take it a step further and say that if everything we're seeing around the world, as well as within our country, continues to proliferate or keep going in the way it's going, I argue too, you might have certain parts of the U.S. make certain decisions, if you know what I mean. I could absolutely see the U.S. potentially breaking up in 2 or 3 pieces as well because of stuff like this.
Dan,
I see that. I could see that.
the United
certain,
States,
certain
United
sections
States,
saying I'm not going along with that, and other sections saying, yeah, I'll just follow along.
the United States is what, 4% of the world population?
5%, and we use 26% of the world's resources.
So
how long do you think the rest of the world's going to let us continue to do that, guys? Newsflash. That's why we need to go to
for anybody who works for a multinational corporation,
renewable energies. Yeah.
What?
That's why we need to think strongly about, getting off, or becoming more, for example, energy independent, right?
Listen, I'm not going, don't tell me you, oh my God.
Dude, you just said it. We use the bulk of the world's resources. We're only 4% of the world's population. How long do you think the rest of the world is going to let us continue to do this? That's it. That's the question. I'll leave it at that. Well, I don't know what the solution is.
Well, Dan, flip it. What you're saying is you're saying that the United States is not carrying its weight, is what you're saying in so many words. Is we basically are taking more than we basically produce. Okay.
I just said that. Yeah. Okay. So your interpretation to flip it that way, yeah, you could make that argument. I'm just giving you the facts. We're 5% of the world's population.
So I don't want to go down this rabbit hole on energy, but you're like, let's buy Teslas. Let's go to wind energy.
No, I didn't say that. What I'm saying is, I just posed a question. I'll say it for a third time. We're using 26% of the world's resources. How long do you think the rest of the world's going to put up with that? That's it.
Well, energy is not free, my friend. Okay. And fossil fuels are the lowest cost for kilowatt hours that you're ever going to have. And the reason that the higher GDP countries use oil or coal or gas that are fossil fuels, the countries like those in Europe who are going to be freezing to death think that solar and wind and basically then they, other people talk about electric cars that have to be powered by something.
Yeah, that stuff's way off. I know. I agree with you that even if you're going to get there, it's 50 years away.
You have to spend $1 trillion to get like 1 watt of energy.
I mean, I hear you. Look, I don't want to get into, to your point, what the best means for that is. I'm just saying, piggybacking off what you said, which is 100% true.
Well, Dan, unfortunately, this is really the sad story. Is, I mean, for anybody who travels outside the United States, if you're being honest about it, and you look at the people of our country objectively,
yeah,
I'm sorry to say, the people of the United States are not exceptional people compared to the rest of the world.
But I thought I was exceptional. You just blew me out of the water. You just popped my bubble, dude.
I mean, in our country, when somebody speaks another language, somebody in the United States would be like, what are you, fucking stupid? Can't you speak English? Speak English, you stupid. Right? When actually that person can probably speak 6 languages.
Dude, my relatives speak 5 or 6 languages in Greece. Fluent, by the way, not just a couple of words here and there. Fluently, they can go back and forth 5 or 6 languages on the fly.
All I'm saying is it's.
I know what you're saying. I agree.
It's not a gauge on intelligence, but it's a skill that most Americans don't have. Okay.
Totally agree.
And what are you going to rely on? You're going to rely on the universal translator to talk to people around the world when they can just talk to you. It's just one thing that I'm saying. You're looking at our math skills, at our science skills. Really? What's 3 times 3 times 3, people? Amazing how many people can't even answer that question.
9.
Right. A lot of Americans are saying that.
It's not 9?
But All I'm saying
What
is,
is 3 cubed, Junior?
if you're a 600-pound fat man, okay, and you're looking in the mirror and you're picturing, Mr.
You're
Buff,
doing the sexy dance.
yeah, and you're thinking of days long gone by, that's where a little dose of reality could go a long way. And that's what we don't do in this country is we just like to attack other people. We don't like to say, you know what, we've got some serious problems here and we need to fix them.
Yeah, no, dude. Listen, I've
Because
had
nobody wants
debates.
to change, right? Like nobody can answer the question, what's the purpose of high school? What in the God's name are we doing in high school that are going to prepare young people to compete in this world?
Oh, totally. It's antiquated. It goes
Forget
back
about
to
college. College
yeah,
is already
yeah.
college is already toast. I mean, college is already a complete waste
The
of money.
curriculum in
Proven
high
that.
the curriculum in high school is like from 1896 or something. I mean, right. It's based on industrial age, whatever, right? I mean,
Memorization, not
yeah.
skills.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And no practicality. I mean, what do you use trigonometry for
Yeah, here
example?
we go. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I'm just saying that we're teaching the kids stuff they're going to get out, they're never going to utilize. And to your point, all that time went by and wasted. They didn't gain any real skill sets. So the kid gets out at 18. They don't know how to do anything. They don't even know how to turn a screwdriver.
I posted a video of Ross Perot saying there'll be this giant sucking sound. That was back in 1990, people. 1990.
Yeah.
That's 33 years ago
I remember
now.
that. That's over 30 years ago. That's incredible. I remember him yesterday saying that.
The United States, thanks to Clinton and his friends, allowing China into the WTO and then NAFTA, our country's gone. And I get in debates with my brother and he'd be like, nope, jobs are coming back. Trump's bringing them back. Everything's coming back. We now do this. Nothing's coming back.
It's not happening.
Nothing's
Newsflash, not happening. Yeah. Yeah. I've had this debate with family members.
You'll hear
my
people
mother
say,
and stuff.
well, if they make the iPhone in California, we'll only add $8 to the cost of the phone. Really? Run the numbers again.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I mean, we can now see that, the chip shortages out there. Well, we don't make chips, right?
Absolutely. That's another problem. We rely on the Pacific Rim and Taiwan in particular for all our basic motherboard components and chips, like you said, and whatever. We don't make any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, everybody knows, including the average 5-year-old, that everything is run by some sort of a chip these days, from your toaster to your whatever, to your automobile, to keep going. Right? It's really not funny. It's scary.
So it's been 30 years that we've been like this. We've been getting hollowed out, like Yuri Bezmenov says. So imagine.
Couldn't agree more.
Dan, imagine eating McDonald's every day for 30 years and sitting around watching TV, eating bonbons. 30 years later, you might not even be able to come back from that physically.
Oh, mentally. Probably not. You would have destroyed so many organs, literally, that, organ failure.
So how is our country going to compete against the rest of the world that's been going like this? Basically, it's like a leveling of water, right? As we've been going like this, they've been coming here. That share's got to come from somewhere. It's in essence a zero-sum game, sorry to say. And that's the way the US has set it up. And
Yep. And when they decided to pimp out manufacturing 30 plus years ago and give it away now, like the song says, where they've got the total capacity from design to production and everything.
Wall Street, our politicians and the banksters are all making tons. It's no surprise that our politicians go in poor and they come out multi-millionaires. It's a great job if you can get it.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, it's crazy. Yeah, you see regular people go in there, they come out multi-millionaires.
Drive around Ohio or Pennsylvania. Go through like Youngstown.
Oh, geez, those places are so hollowed out.
Akron.
Or remember Bethlehem
Detroit.
Steel? Bethlehem Steel and all that. Yeah, forget it. I mean, Pittsburgh, Three Rivers, right? All the factories that were through there, right? I mean, that stuff doesn't exist anymore. What do they got now? Soy boy coffee shops to replace it, right?
Back in 2013, this is 10 years ago now, coming up on 10 years ago, I drove cross country and I drove across what they call the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, over to Wisconsin.
Yep.
And that
Oh,
stretch,
man.
all the mom and pop places either were out of business or for sale. But all the McDonald's, the chain hotels,
Right.
all of the chains were booming. But every single mom and pop I saw that wasn't a chain, they were gone. Gone. And that's when I knew this country. I mean, I knew before then, but that just confirmed that unless you're a big company who can get 0% money, the banks wouldn't even talk to you and me, Dan. But Home Depot,
Nope.
they go straight to the Fed.
Yeah.
They get 0.2% money.
They get free money. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the truth. Yeah. I mean, this is by design. This is what we've decided to do. I've been saying for 20 years, and you've heard me rant about it. And people get mad at me and call me the conspiracy goon. And I'm like, fine, I don't care. This is just observation. I mean, we're becoming a banana republic. 100%.
Becoming?
Yeah.
Our infrastructure has been banana republic for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, everything in our country now is really a Ponzi scheme. It's designed to basically just funnel money to the people at the top.
Yeah. So you're going to have 1% elite, maybe a 5 or 10% middle class, if that, and the other 80% is going to suck wind, like the typical banana republic.
Well, banana republic is, like you said, all the money is in the top 1%. And
Yeah,
your middle class is like a couple percent, and then it's like
Yeah,
90%, 90% of Elysium.
Absolutely. That's we're on that path. And we're moving fast on it. And yeah, it's scary. It really is upsetting when I think about it. It really
No,
upsets me.
but for people, and it is upsetting, and people should get
It's
upset because
very upsetting.
listen, when you go to Mexico,
Because I worry about my kids and I worry
listen,
about
you
the
go to
future
Brazil,
generations.
go to Brazil, go to Mexico. Well, I haven't been to Brazil, I can't say, but I can imagine. But I've been to Mexico. So
Yeah.
go to Mexico and drive around different neighborhoods, and you'll see what happens when you're not the world reserve currency and you actually can't just print money unlimited.
100%, man.
All of a sudden,
That's called reality.
yeah. All of a sudden, and I just took a video today. I mean, there's no social welfare programs here like there are in the United States. If you want to survive here, you got to get your ass up and go out on the street and try to sell something. That's what a lot of people do. You'll see them out selling tacos on the street or
Whatever they can.
whatever they can.
Whatever
They'll
they
be
can.
selling out of the back of their car
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
have to. That's the only way, they have to basically, buy bread for their family.
100%.
And so that is coming to the United States, and it could happen. It could be like just flipping a switch. It could be flipping a switch.
Yeah, I mean, so the Great Reset is going to be that switch essentially, right? And so with that Great Reset is going to be a lot of things happening at once, right?
Well, do
To
you
your
think
point,
the
so.
people who are controlling everything, do you think that they not realize that they are fighting a delaying action? They know that this is going to happen, and they've basically probably should have happened in 2008, and they've kicked the can down the road, right? So now if the rest of the world, see, this is the difference. Back when Russia was the Soviet Union, okay, and they tried to take on the United States, they couldn't do it economically. They didn't have the economic power to go toe to toe with the United States. But now we have China and Russia. And with those two economies, they easily can destroy the United States economically, okay, between those two. And so,
I don't disagree.
So if they now decide to say, no mas, we're not playing your game,
100%. Yeah.
the music stops. And so if the United States or London or whoever the powers that be see this, then what they're going to say, maybe there's a group in the United States or in the NATO community who say, hey, remember World War II when the whole world was blown up? We were in charge after that. So maybe their answer is going to be, let's blow up the whole world, and
100%.
we will be the last man standing, and we will have another 80 years of supreme rule.
Well, listen to me. So real quick, I mean, look at that playbook has been run twice already and successfully, right? Particularly with World War II. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they're leading us. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Don't worry, Dan. We'd only lose 200 million people. Like the Eagle report said, in 2025, there'd be 90 million Americans.
That's right. And remember you and I saw that? We saw that, and I should have taken the screenshot.
Oh, it's on a video. I have it on a video.
Okay, you got it on video. Awesome. Because they took it down like 2 or 3 weeks, a month later, too. They took that shit down. So I remember that. It said the US population.
Yeah, I called up. I'm like, have you heard of this? And you're like, no. And I said, what do you think about this? And you're like, I can't believe it. So these
it was 300 something million down to about a third. Yep.
Yeah, in 5 years or 6 years.
Within like 5 years, something like that. Yep. Yeah, I was like, it showed it showed every country in the world, I think.
And we were the only ones that were drastically reduced.
Yeah, we were, there were like 5 countries or 3 or 5 countries drastically reduced. And from what I recall, I think we were number one.
No, the one country was drastically reduced.
That was us. That was us. I looked at Brazil, for example, just, because of whatever, Joe, whatever, just out of interest. And their population was the same, unaffected. And I looked at a bunch of other countries. I forget which ones, but a lot of them were totally unaffected.
Yeah, we looked at them all.
Yeah, we were cut down by like 2/3. I was like, really?
I even said in that video, hey, when it becomes like life or death, like the old saying, if me and you were out on a hike, Dan, and a bear started chasing us.
No, whoever can run one step ahead fast.
I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so when it gets to that point where the bear is coming for you, and are you telling me that Germany's going to go down on the Titanic with the United States? Italy, Greece?
You should common sense. I mean, their job is to subsist or try to survive like anybody else. And if push comes to shove, to your point, they're going to choose themselves first. That's basic human survival instincts, whether at a personal level or at a national level. 100%, man. And anybody that thinks otherwise
is why
just
George
grossly
Washington
naive,
recommended no entangling alliances.
Totally out of it. Yeah, exactly. That's what happens.
No entangling alliances.
Right. But we know better. We've chosen not to listen to the founding fathers. We've chosen not to any longer follow the Constitution because it's antiquated. Doesn't apply. So let's go into Elysium instead. The Bible references Elysium, and there's a movie called Elysium. And for those that don't know what we're talking about, go look it up.
Yeah, well, Elysium is a Greek term. And that referred to that was actually a scam, supposedly, back in Greece, where they were selling basically tickets to paradise.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
2 tickets to paradise?
Yeah.
2 tickets to paradise.
As far as I'm aware, there were trains to Auschwitz and other concentration camps. And people willingly chose to get onto those trains instead of fighting back. Very few instances where people actually decided to go down fighting.
That's true.
And I would have this debate over the last 50 years with people, and people like, well, that would never happen in the United States. No, it's going to happen in the United States.
100%. Look at the you remember Katrina with the Superdome and how everybody just filed in there into FEMA.
Look at all the assholes who went out and just got all those jabs without even questioning it.
Yeah, that too.
You could have just, okay, we're going to find out. But according to medical experts, the people who have done that have just signed a potential death sentence.
Yeah.
Time will tell. We're already seeing death
Time will
rates
tell.
escalate over the last year and a half. Death rates are going like this, total deaths
Mm.
of all kinds, cancers and AIDS and
Well,
whatever.
don't tell California and the Northeast that.
My point is it truly comes down to you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. And so time will always tell. And this is
100%.
where, and this is also where the saying is, it's better to be a year early than a day late. And people really need to pray on this and have the strength and courage to do the right thing. Now, if people say, well, I can't move because of this, well, just realize that you are thereby saying, I am getting on that train and I'm hoping I can survive in the concentration camp. That's what you're saying, because you are choosing to stay where you are, or you don't believe it, and that's fine. I'm not God. I could definitely be wrong, but and these things also don't play out in the time frames we always see. But the scary thing is we're seeing the escalation with Russia go very, very quickly. And it would not surprise me. You know, you heard Liz Truss when she became Prime Minister of Britain. She's the one who brought up nuclear weapons. And Putin responded to that. And so what did the media do? The media is like, Putin's threatening the world with nuclear weapons. No, he was saying, don't hold us hostage with nuclear weapons.
Yeah, and what I was going to say earlier, real quick on that, is Putin,
We're down to 1 minute, pal.
is pretty much a moderate. What most people don't understand is he's got generals. He's got a lot of hardcore generals, okay, that are willing to go like this on a dime. And oh, by the way, he's got one or two of them. One of them's referred to as General Armageddon. This guy, Sergei, I forget his last name, his background is this. He's like Curtis LeMay that we had back in the 50s. He's the type of dude that would punch a nuclear button.
I will break you.
It's not a joke. So Putin has generals that if it were up to them, they'd be launching ICBMs, literally. So that's what the West needs to realize too.
Yep.
Putin's not as crazy as we make him out to be. Okay, he doesn't want to die either.
Live long and prosper.